we had our company meeting at the end of last week, which is a big deal for us. We tend to do our company meetings twice a year, which is probably too infrequently, but it kind of works for Barstool. I don't know. It's like the one moment in time where we get everybody from the third floor, which is all of our business folks. We get everybody from the second floor, which is all of our creative and production and social folks. We bring them together. We get them in a room. Dave and I give kind of the same version of the same speech every year. But it really is pretty staggering. I mean, we grew, and we'll play clips of this episode. We'll play clips from the company meeting in this episode. But it's really staggering to see how much Barstool has grown. And I think it becomes like so palpable when you see the company meeting, because you just look around and it's every year it's 150 people more than it was the year before. So I always have this like weird moment getting to our company meeting of like, holy shit, we're growing so much. This has changed so much. We've come so far from 2016 or even before then. I think this year was kind of special because, we're going into the 20th anniversary of Barstool, which to think about Barstool in 2004 versus thinking about Barstool in 2023 is they're just apples and oranges. They're two completely different things. But it was also really great to hear from Gaz. We heard from Big Cat. We heard from Fights and KFC. Nate did a great piece on the blog. So it was nice to hear from different people within Barstool Sports. KB and Nick, who are the hosts of Anus, they did an investigative report on the third floor, which was hilarious. But I think what it made people realize is that, there's 400 people inside of this company who are trying to make something really different happen and trying to make something really disruptive happen and trying to make something really funny and entertaining and engaging happen. And I think it's just rare. I think it's really rare right now, especially as more people work from home and as more people just kind of become alienated from work. I think it's so rare to have people gathered together from different places with different backgrounds and different skill sets and different perspectives and having them work on the same thing. So that's really inspiring. I still think this is one of the most courageous companies. I think we take an insane amount of risk. I think we are very, very bold. I think everyone here is an insanely hard worker. Most everyone here is just an insanely hard worker. And I think what's great about the company meeting is just it's an awesome time to recognize all of those people. I think the dedication to the brand, to the vision, to the identity is really strong. And then I also really love that this is a place where people kind of take the brand to someplace new, and they take the idea of Barstool Sports and they make it their own. And those are people who work in production, and those are people who work in finance, and those are people who work obviously on the talent side. But I love all of those things. And I think the company meeting is always a good time to just pull back and have some perspective on it. I also, when we have the company meetings, I'm always like, there's so many things that I think we're doing wrong or that we're not doing well enough or that we have to change. And there's a lot, quite honestly, that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that we've just made this thing so complicated. Like, we're still operating this business like we had 150 people and now we have 400 people. And that's really, really, really bad, because what it means is that like the system we have in place, the way we hand one thing from one person to a next just is broken. It just doesn't work. And I worry about people's ability and our ability to like cross the transom and make the change to evolve how we're doing something. Like a lot of what we talked about in the company meeting and in general is just keeping Barstool. So it kind of raises the question of what is Barstool? And I think what Barstool is about is risk taking. It's about humor and comedy and internet content. It's about, a very narrow distance between production and distribution. It's about the exploration of content and humor and topic and opinion. And then it's also about speed and sophistication of how do we think about growing 90-something brands, putting them in 1,700 places and doing the same thing each and every single day of the year. And so I think, we have to continue to change how we do that. We have to evolve how we do it. We have to re-examine what we're doing and why. And I think, I wish we did more of that. And And I think 2023 is a year just staring down the Penn acquisition where we're going to have to figure that out. One of the things we talked about is, when we look at next year and we look at our goals, whether that's brand and audience or it's revenue or it's productivity, we've got to get simpler and smarter about how we do things. It's kind of like we 10x the size of the company and we 10x the size of our problems instead of 10xing the size of the company and 100xing our scale, because we have so many more people and we have so many more resources and we have so much more scale. So those are the things I'm worried about and thinking about. Also, I think we've kind of gotten into this time where people are out for themselves first and Barstool second, which is kind of natural. I actually think that's kind of just the nature of work right now, which is people are more self-motivated and self-serving. I think remote work did that. I think the pandemic contributed to that. I think just the world of social media that we live in is promoting that. But it's sometimes hard to reel people back in to say, like, is this good for Barstool and for you, or is this good for you and not so great for Barstool? So those are the things I'm thinking about coming out of the company meeting. So instead of me talking about it, why don't we just listen? You can listen and watch it. So here's a few clips from the company meeting. The biggest thing that I think Dave talked about in his video and that I really care about is keeping Barstool. And we're obviously staring down Penn will acquire us in February. And when I think about keeping Barstool, that's not just about our talent team and the content we make, but it's also about how we do business. Most media companies are out of business. Like or at least when I started, we talked about Deadspin all the time. We talked about Gawker. Like, we talked about all these publishers. We talked about HuffPost. Like, none of these people are relevant. They're certainly not growing, and they're not making any money. So we're in some ways like the last of the Mohicans in that there are very, very, very few brands left that are relevant, that are growing, that are able to make money, and where people can make them a shortcut for themselves. And we always give we tried to mix up this meeting a little bit where we don't give you the same lecture the whole time. But this really is a place where it is what you make of it. And every year we make so much stuff that I think makes us so proud. We also do a lot of stupid shit that we shouldn't be doing again. And so this is kind of that time of year where we reflect that. What makes Barstool? We're super nimble. We will do most anything for a laugh. We're highly experimental. There's a ton of weird brains here. Our fans are the best. They are better than anybody's on the internet or really anything in media. And so long as we keep our fans, we will be great at content. We will be great in business. But it's all at the end of the day about our fans. And then we have a bunch of X factors here. And I think the X factor is not just people who do crazy things. It's that things can happen at any moment in time from any group of people, whether you're a business person, you're in finance, you're in accounting, you're an engineer, you're a content person, you're a producer. Crazy shit happens here and we take advantage of it, and that's what makes Barstool so unique, and that's what's going to stay true to Barstool over time. We've grown over 3,000%, so we've grown 3,600%, and as a result, Barstool has become more complex. Like, when people ask me about Barstool, it's actually a very, very complex, nuanced business. If you looked at the month of November or December, we produced 15,000 pieces of content across 17,000 social accounts, across 1,000 advertisers, and 400 pieces of merch. It's crazy complex. So our business has gotten very complex. For us to keep Barstool, we have to simplify how we're doing our business. We're trying to do the same thing. The times I get most frustrated at work are when we're trying to do things the way we did with 50 people or 100 people or even 200 people. We're trying to do the same thing with twice the amount of people and 10x the numbers of brands here. So we've got to continue to evolve how we do business, how we run this thing. Because by keeping it small, by keeping us focused, by keeping us centered on the fan and the content, everything works if we do that. If we get the brand right, if we get the voice right, if we get the fan right, the rest of it just follows. And keeping our creative relevant, keeping it sharp, keeping it opinionated, keeping it creative is really, at the end of the day, the biggest thing we have to protect. And we have to make sure our business is as simple as possible and as efficient as possible around that.